Oh, here goes. And welcome to the 79th episode of Throwback Hoops. Woody V is in the house. Please follow the show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And as always, I'm joined by my main man, Robbie Clayton. What's up, bro?
What's up, Woods? Good to be here again, mate. I know it's a little bit of a sad time now the NBA season's finished. Certainly going to talk about that final series pretty soon. But hey, before we get into it, I wanted to give you a massive congrats there. I know you became an uncle this week. Why don't you tell everyone about that?
Yeah, really proud, man. My brother gave birth to little Noah Charlie Venkat on the 12th of June, the same day as the Denver Nuggets won the NBA championship, the same day as my family dog Maurice was born, and the same day as one of my best friends, Rocky. So really, really auspicious and great day for me. So I'm really proud uncle today, man. So appreciate that.
Oh, that's awesome. And make sure you get him a new jersey soon as well. I'm sure you'll do that. Maybe a little Hawks,
For sure.
DeJounte or Trey or something else like that.
Yeah, maybe a little Kings jersey as well, right?
Awesome. But big shout out to Abs and Leanne for that.
Shout out to you guys. All right, with the special championship edition, Throwback Hoops. So let's get it, right? As always, let's kick it off with our jerseys, man. I know you got a bit of a college flavor going on today, so why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you got today?
Yeah, a little bit different today. I thought about sort of rocking some Nuggets jerseys there, but I thought, you know what? I've been saving these jerseys for quite a while now, Wood. So, look, I'm doing a double today. I'll tell a story first, and I'll talk a little bit about the jerseys. So, the one I'm hanging today, it's a Jimmy King blue Michigan Wolverines jersey. A random one there, Woods. It's something that people know that are close to me know. He's actually one of my favourite all-time players. He's solely the reason why I've worn number 24 for literally the last 30-plus years when I've been playing basketball. Long before Kobe, long before it sort of became that popular cult sort of number like that. It's from Jimmy King, part of the Fab Five. So that's his blue one hanging up, a Nike blue. I'll just stand up and show you the one I'm rocking, then I'll talk a little bit about Mr. King.
For those who can't see, Robbie's wearing the yellow Michigan Jimmy King jersey, and he's also got the black Jimmy King jersey hanging in the rafters. So, man, that's pretty awesome. You got two different Michigan Jimmy King jerseys.
Dark blue. And, of course, there are
dark blue.
No names on the back with those things like I did with those college jerseys back in the day, but all the true hoopers will know that's Jimmy King. So, a little bit about Jimmy King there, Woods. So, of course, he was a big part of the famed Michigan Fab Five, along with Jalen Rose, Chris Webber, Juwan Howard, and Ray Jackson. He played all 4 seasons from the Wolverines from 91 to 95. And then he got drafted. Who did he get drafted by, Woods? Putting you on the spot.
Milwaukee?
No, I got drafted by the Raptors at pick 35 in the 95 draft. Unfortunately, he had a very short-lived NBA career, playing only 62 games, would you believe? So he played in his rookie year with Toronto before he was traded to Dallas and waived without playing a game. Then he went on to play 2 games the next year with Denver, and that was it. So after his NBA career finished, he had some really good years in the CBA. So he won an MVP and also a championship with Quad City in 98. And then he spent a bit of time playing in Poland and Venezuela. So a little bit of a strange sort of place for him to end up there. So these days, Jimmy's 49 years old. He owns True Champions, which is a company that helps high school athletes earn scholarships and college offers, as well as doing some coaching at his former school. So, yeah, as I mentioned, Woods, I sort of really took a liking to this guy in those very early 90s there. Changed my number. I think I used to be number 21 for Dominique or something like that. So changed my number to 24, which I've always rocked. Funny story about that blue jersey behind me there. I actually went over to America in the mid-90s. I think Jimmy might have just spent his last year of college in, and that was like my grail jersey. Every time we went to a sports shop on this holiday, I was looking for that jersey. Eventually found that in a shopping centre in New York, pretty close to where Madison Square Garden was, and it was actually really pricey, obviously the legit Nike ones, but I just had to have it. So, yeah, that jersey I've had since about 93, 94, I think. I like bringing a little bit of memorabilia to the show as well, Wood. So I've got this thing proudly hanging in the study as well. So hand signed by Jimmy King, rocking that blue jersey I've got behind me. So, yeah, pretty random favourite player there, and it's disappointing he didn't have that NBA career that I hoped, but, I still love going back and watching those old Michigan highlights and, the Fab Five doco and seeing Mr. King there. So, why don't you tell us what you're rocking? Oh, actually, what do you
Yeah,
remember
in a second. But
about
if
Jimmy
you,
King? Yeah.
well, I remember about you talk about the memorabilia and buying and looking for that jersey, right? That Fab Five documentary you spoke of, it speaks heavily about how the monetary advantages that the college, garnered from
Yep.
selling the Fab Five memorabilia, right?
100%. Well,
And
they were like going to the shopping mall with
you just
barely
back
enough
that
money.
up, right?
Yeah, they had barely enough money to buy stuff at the
Yeah,
shopping centre, and they go past the local sports store and they'd be selling all their jerseys in the windows and stuff. So a little bit strange. I've got a Chris Webber one of
yep.
these, and I've also got a Tractor Trailer, rest in peace, one of these as well, somewhere in one of the cupboards. So
Rest in
and
peace.
that Trey Burke one that I rocked earlier. So a few Michigan jerseys in the collection. Nice. Well, why don't you show us what you're rocking today, Woods? And I know you've got to actually almost apologise for the one you're wearing, but don't apologise too much, right?
Okay, sure.
Woods is standing up, rocking the number 5 Detroit, one of the longest surnames in the NBA, Caldwell-Pope. Hey, Woods, we got a
Caldwell-Pope
crazy
steals the
echo.
ball.
We got a crazy echo coming out here today. I don't know what's going on. Anyway,
Do we?
massively. Anyway, let's go.
Caldwell-Pope steals the ball, right? You talk about that steal he got there of Jimmy Butler in that game 5. I know we'll get into it later, but let's talk a little bit about Caldwell-Pope and the kind of influence he's had on this Denver Nuggets lineup, right?
Hey, Woods, have we seen that jersey before on the show?
Yes, you've seen the jersey on the show before, right?
Nice.
I was waiting for you to bring that up. But yeah, look, I know we've seen it on the show before. The reason that I'm wearing it now is because it's current, and the kind of impact that he's had on this final series deserves some kudos. So that's why I'm wearing it out of respect for him. And I got the Denver Nuggets hat on as well.
Well,
Yeah.
that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so talk to me about that. The kind of impact that he's had on this Denver Nuggets team, that championship experience he brought from LA, and he's now a veteran. This Detroit Pistons jerseys in his early years, right? He then went on to LA, win a championship, moved to Denver. What kind of impact has he had on this squad?
It was a little bit of just a role player trade, wasn't it? Obviously they traded Will Barton to Washington to get him there. Kind of seemed like a like-for-like type of trade, didn't it? A pretty good defender, someone that could score and get on the fast break and that. But, yeah, what he's brought to that team, obviously with his championship pedigree from the Lakers there, and just the way he's fit in, he seems like a really good teammate as well. Can do a lot, can hit the outside shot, can pretty much lock down any player that he's put on there. And, yeah, played a massive part on that Nuggets team, didn't he?
Yeah, and 3-and-D guys, wing defenders that can actually knock down the three ball are priceless in this league. So, I mean, you talk about Jamal Murray, the Joker. You surround those guys with these great role players, and you've got a championship level team, right? And KCP's been a big part of that.
Absolutely. No, I know you were happy for his success. You've been a fan, obviously, since those Detroit days there. So, no, it was good to see, and looking forward to talk a little bit more about this championship.
Well, let's get into that, shall we?
Sounds good.
All right, so the Denver Nuggets have won their first ever NBA championship after beating the Miami Heat 4-1. It was a pretty close game, a very bit of an ugly game. What were your thoughts on Game 5? Let's kick off there.
Yeah, for sure. Look, it wasn't a pretty game, like you mentioned before, but I still think it was really enjoyable, especially that last quarter. I thought that was super exciting there. A lot of just different things happened there, a few lead changes, a few, poor mistakes by some key players and everything there. But look, in the end, it was good to see Denver, I think, win on their home court. I think it hasn't happened for a couple of years now where the winning team's actually been on their home court, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And yeah, like we said, for a team to get their first championship, it's pretty huge, right? Miami's won a couple before and everything, so it was great to see a pretty likeable team in the Nuggets winning their first chip. But yeah, it was a funny sort of a final series, I reckon. Denver certainly were the deserved winner there. There was a few ugly games. I think the scoring got a little bit lower, like it tends to do in these big games now. A lot of field goal percentages from individual players went down. But, in the end, I think it was obviously a very fair result. And Denver just really, really played to their full capacity there and had some really important players at both ends.
Yeah, well, you speak about that. I think Denver was, 1 from 14 or 1 from 13 in the first half from three-point land. And a statistic is that is the lowest three-point field goal percentage in a half for a team that's taken 10 shots or more, right, in a playoff game. So, I mean, Miami really did well there. And I think they shot about 4 from 13 in the second half. So, Miami did their bit, right? and I think we'll get into it later, how can Miami retool next year to try and, go that extra step. But they did all they could. And when you look back on that Miami performance, you think about the cattle that they had. For them to go that far and actually challenge for an NBA championship, be the Eastern Conference champions, it's a huge effort. Right now they'll be a bit upset that they lost, but when they sit back and reflect on this playoff run, I'm talking about like in NBA 2K, you can play with classic teams from the past, right? Mm-hmm. So in 10 years' time, this 2022-23 Heat team could be probably a team that you could use, right, on the game.
No, it's certainly a remarkable run that they had. We've talked about it on previous episodes. The Hawks beat them in that first playing game. They were down to the Bulls with about 3 minutes left in the second playing game, facing elimination. So to recover from that, Tyler Hero being out, that's probably something else I want to mention here, that he was fit and dressed yesterday and didn't get on. But he didn't get on, did he?
No, he didn't get on. And like you can't play him. Like, the guy's been injured, right? He hasn't played in a couple of months. So Coach Spo basically said, look, let me run with the guys that have got me here. It's a bit risky to throw him into the deep end when he hasn't played for so long. So I can't blame Coach Spo for that.
No, fair call. But I want to probably talk about some of the shining lights for this Denver Nuggets team there, Woods. Just amazing.
Well, let's start with the Joker. Let's start with the Joker, right? I want to talk to you a little bit about what the Joker has achieved. He's the first player in NBA history to lead the postseason in points, rebounds, and assists. And let's just talk about his stats a little bit. 30 points, right? 14 rebounds, 7 assists, shooting 58% from the field, and 42% from three-point land. Talk to me.
Amazing stats. I think the one thing that's almost been a little bit underrated about his game is his rebounding. Everyone talks about his passing. That's, without question, he's one of the best passing big men of all time, no doubt about it. His scoring is really good. He's definitely improved his three-point shot, but it's his rebounding for me. What did you say? 14 boards?
14 boards, man. Yep.
Just huge there, and just such a smart player, and what a humble superstar as well. You see him after the game.
Yep.
Not carrying on, going and shaking hands, dapping up all the Heat guys and that. He seems like the sort of guy that just wants to get out of the limelight, probably go back home to Serbia on his horse farm and just chill for a few months now. But really special player, and certainly someone that we're going to remember for a long time. And he's a 2-time MVP now. He's an NBA champion, and he's still in his prime of his career. So there's still a lot of good times to come for him, I think.
And Robert, for the casual basketball fan who didn't give him the respect he deserved, not enough Denver Nuggets games are shown on national TV. They
will be next year.
Yeah, for sure. But he almost flies under the radar. Do you think that attitude, that mindset for the general public about the Joker is going to change on the back of his performance in this final series?
I think it should. He's traditionally been that sort of player that hasn't made the highlight, tapes in terms of his scoring and some of his athleticism and stuff like that. But just what does it matter? Everything else he does is just, we've never seen anyone like him there. So yeah, I think it's going to definitely elevate it. It probably should have been already, given he was already a 2-time MVP and was probably unlucky to win this year. But yeah, it's going to put him into legendary status. I heard a few people saying, this probably puts him ahead of guys like David Robinson now, maybe not far off Shaq if you're kind of looking back at careers. A few people might say, what the hell sort of thing? But yeah, if you go and look at some of their stats, pretty similar, right?
And you have that Shaq Joker comparison. I heard that on the first take this morning, that Stephen A. Smith's talking about how Shaq's the most dominant big man ever. Joker brings a different skill set to the table. And Aaron Gordon was interviewed post-game, and he said he's the first point center that's ever lived, right?
Yeah.
There's been point forwards, there's been point guards, but for a guy to be able to control the offense from the center position is just incredible. So I think, you talk about unicorns, he is actually a unicorn, right?
Yeah, no, fair call.
All right, look, let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about Bruce Brown, all right? A little bit unheralded. They went with a 7-8 man rotation, the Denver Nuggets, right? Brucey B, this guy, he started off at Detroit, had some time in Brooklyn, and he's come, and the kind of impact that he's had on this team, with that final play as well,
Yeah.
He's up for a contract renewal now. He's going to get paid. Aaron Gordon was saying on the podium when they were together after the game that, you're going to get paid, man. But he's said he'd like to come back to Denver. What have you thought about his game and his evolution over the last season?
He was really the perfect player for them, wasn't he? They went out in the market and tried to get guys like him and KCP. He just seems just like a really good teammate, almost similar to what I said with KCP there, and just a great defender. He's a sneaky good rebounder. We saw him get that really important rebound. Was that the last field goal of the game, maybe, that rebound that he
Yeah,
put
it was.
up
It
there?
was
Yeah,
indeed. It
it
was
was, right?
indeed. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he just fit in so well there and just does all the sort of dirty work there. Probably a little bit underrated in terms of his defense. Yeah, you're right though. He's definitely up for a pay rise, and I think a few people are going to want to come to Denver now. I think it's going to be a destination that people can see, wanting to come and play with some of these stars now, and knowing that team's got a lot of their prime players. Their main players in their prime of their career and under contract. So I think they're going to be pretty good for a few years. So yeah, I'm sure they'll do everything they can to try and get Brown back.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we speak about KCP, right? At the end of the game when they won, KCP and Bruce Brown embraced each other. And when Bruce Brown was asked why did that happen, they're like, look, we came here at the start of this season to help drive a championship run. And so the two of us got really close to the start of this season because, MJP, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Jokic, Murray, they've been around this team for a while, but the two of us joined together. So those two really embraced each other, and we're really happy about it. So that's terrific, right?
For sure, for sure.
So I'd like to talk a little bit more about this Denver lineup as well, right? Let's talk about some of the veterans on that team, yeah? DeAndre Jordan, Ish Smith, Uncle Jeff, right? Must be really great for them at the end of their careers to come on. DeAndre Jordan actually played a bit yesterday. It must be really nice for these guys who've been in the league for 10 plus years to get this championship.
They were three of the guys I was looking out for when you could see those celebrations yesterday, just seeing how much it meant to them. I think Ish Smith's on his 13th team, Jeff Green's on his 12th team, if I'm not mistaken, and DeAndre is getting up there too, maybe 7 or 8 teams off the top of my head. But yeah, it was great to see all those guys do it. A few people have mentioned now, obviously, DeAndre Jordan gets his ring before Blake Griffin and CP3, which is quite interesting. But yeah, guys like Ish Smith, again, someone that's always been a good teammate there. You can see how much it meant to him at the end of the game. And yeah, it's great to sort of see, these journeymen getting something to show for it and something that they'll always be now, and that's an NBA champion.
Yeah, and great you say that. And Uncle Jeff has actually come out and said he'd like to keep playing until he's 40, into his 40s, man. Is that something that's achievable?
Yeah, I don't see why not. He always looked after his body and everything else like that. He's still fast, he's still athletic, can still come on and knock down an open three, play a bit of defense. So yeah, absolutely. If he wants to stick around, they'll have him, I think.
Terrific. So let's turn our attention to a couple of guys that have been injured and have come back from injury. Michael Porter Jr., MPJ. You talk about Jamal Murray. These guys have had like really serious injuries, multiple surgeries, right? For them to come back and to reach the apex, it must be really heartwarming, the work that they've put in, what they've gone through to get to this point, yeah?
Oh, definitely. I mean, look, I'll start off talking a little bit about Jamal Murray. He was just so impressive with what he did. I think he's really turned into a complete point guard now. His playmaking has just gotten so much better. You look at what he was like playing in that bubble a few years ago. He was strictly just a scorer then, and it was almost a bit of an afterthought with his passing and everything else like that. But he's really turned into a great playmaker. People forget as well, he's a great size. He's 6'4", 100 kilos. He can bully and really sort of play some of those point guards down there. I thought his defense on that last play when Butler drove in there, he moved his feet so well and stayed in front of him, and that was pretty much the reason that caused Butler to throw that away in case KCP stole the ball there. So yeah, super impressed with Murray. I think he's going to go into bigger and better things. Yeah, and Michael Porter Jr. is an interesting one. I mean, I was a little bit critical of him at times during the season. I think probably because I had him on a few fantasy teams and I was expecting a little bit more than what he was giving. And the main thing I was critical was his rebounding woods. I mean, he was lucky to average 5 rebounds a game in the regular season, which for someone as tall and athletic as him is a bit poor, but he really stepped up. I think he was close to 8 or 9 in the playoffs there and had some really, I mean, he had a couple of dodgy games in that final series, but he came good when they needed him there, and an important player there, and good to see someone that's had a lot of injuries over the years, even before he started playing in the NBA, finally staying healthy and showing what he can do.
Well, Jamal Murray seems like a high character individual, right? On and off the court. You talk about Michael Porter Jr., his shot wasn't dropping, right? In that last game, he was crashing the glass. He was finding a way to contribute to the team. And I thought he was really good in that game 5.
No, for sure. I mean, look, everyone sort of stood up, didn't they? They had a really sort of strong 5 or 6. And then I know there's another guy on the bench that you want to mention soon coming up as well that also stood up for him.
I just want to go through all these Denver guys because, we need to show them some respect on the back of this championship. All right, we'll talk about Chris Braun then. Let's talk about him. Young kid, he's won 3 championships in a row in high school. He's won a championship in college, and now he's won a championship in the NBA. It's 5 championships in a row, so he must have that good karma that comes with him. But the kid, Coach Malone's put a lot of faith in him, and he's really repaid that faith. He's got guys like Reggie Jackson, Ish Smith on the bench, but he goes to Chris Braun.
Jeff Van Gundy will certainly be able to pronounce his surname now. Definitely that it's Brown and not Braun.
I just said Braun, didn't I?
I think you did, but I mean it's spelled that way, so I'll forgive you for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, obviously, becoming I think the 5th player in history to win an NCAA title and an NBA championship the year after. So he's actually the last player to do it since 1987.
Right.
Billy Thompson did it then, and the only other ones that did it were Magic Johnson, Henry Bibby, and Bill Russell. So some pretty elite company and something that hadn't been done in 36 years there. So
damn.
Yeah, he was an important player, wasn't he? He didn't play a lot in that last series then, but they opened up the benches a little bit more and tried to give some players more minutes in that final series, and he delivered for sure.
Yeah, terrific. Yeah, he was great, and he's got a bright future. And let's finally talk about Aaron Gordon, right? AG. When he was in Orlando, he was not known as a defensive player, right?
No.
But he's come into this system, and he has become a lockdown defender, right?
Yeah.
He bullies people on the offensive end. He knows his role. His influence on this Denver Nuggets team and their title run cannot be understated, correct?
He was possibly one of the ones I was happiest for. I think you know, Woods. I've been a big fan of Aaron Gordon over the years. There, someone that I've always wanted to get his jersey, and never managed to get it. So I might have to put that on the wish list.
Let's do that, man. Let's do that.
Should do that. Yeah. But yeah, he really was big fan, wasn't he? I've said it, I think on last week's show. He seems to get bigger and bigger every year as well. He's a big boy these days. Always been in really good shape and everything. So yeah, really important piece for them. And look, I think he'll take that championship over a dunk comp win any day, right? So we know he possibly got robbed in one of those dunk comps there, but yeah, great to see him get the trophy.
And just quietly, it was really nice at the post-game press conference to see him rock up with a big cigar in his mouth and a bottle of Moet with Bruce Brown and hang out, man. He seems like a cool dude.
For sure. Hey, Woods, before you get into Miami, I want to ask you a little bit about Jack White as well. Saw a lot of almost hate and disrespect for him on social media, and all the stats coming out. And people saying, he didn't play and everything else like that. I think people have got to realise that he was a part of that squad this year, and that's what happens, right? You're a part of that squad and you play meaningful minutes in the season, then you're entitled to get a championship ring there. So yeah, I know it's maybe that tall poppy syndrome. People want to knock people down and stuff like that. But I thought that was great. He became the 3rd player to win an NBA championship and an NBL championship, which I thought was amazing. But yeah, full credit to Jack White. And hopefully he gets onto that main roster if he sticks around next year. Maybe someone like DeAndre, moves on or something like that and he gets elevated there. But yeah, I was happy for him to get that.
Totally, man. And that's the thing. You've got to have a good attitude. You get a 2-way contract. He goes and dominates the G League, right? The guy's he's a great kid, and from all reports, that all his teammates love him. It's been a great experience for him. And you got to start somewhere, man. You got to start somewhere, right?
And what's he doing in practice every day? He's playing against Aaron Gordon. He's playing against the Joker. He's playing against Bruce Brown, KCP, all these sort of guys like that. So he's helped sort of shape that team, in his own sort of way, and the practice court and everything else like that. And yeah, absolutely full credit for him getting that ring.
And his attitude throughout this whole process, man. He's only going to get better from this. Really proud of him. Yeah. All right, so let's move over to Miami, right? I mean, we spoke about it a little bit earlier. They've really, punched above their weight. What do they need to do in the off season? Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, maybe reflect on how they've performed and what they can do in the off season to tool up next year, right?
Look, I think they've got the best out of their players. I mean, we've heard 1,000 mentions of all the undrafted sort of guys there and how well they've played. For me, I think they really need to strengthen their backcourt. I'm just not sure that Gabe Vincent and Max Strus are the answer for a starting backcourt like we saw in the those final series there. We know Tyler Hero's going to come back. I was sort of wondering, I heard that a player like Fred Van Vliet was possibly opting out of his contract with Toronto. Could he be someone that Miami would potentially try and go after? I could see him fitting in pretty well there as a scoring first point guard. I think that could be someone because, Kyle Lowry's days are probably numbered there. But look, it's certainly been an amazing season. I just think probably they need to shore up their backcourt there. And yeah, possibly not have massive high expectations going into next season. It's just because they made the finals next year, they had a pretty good run there, but it doesn't mean that they're a lock to sort of get back there and far from it, I think, next season. But I think they can look back at it and be proud of what they did anyway. And obviously Coach Spoelstra has done an amazing job as always.
Well, a couple of things I want to talk about. Like you talk about a big two, right? Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, and you compare that to Anthony Davis and LeBron James or Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, right? You know, you compare it to Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, right? Um, is that a big two that can take you to a championship? Probably not, right?
Yeah, I mean,
They came pretty close, but
they
you know,
certainly did. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on who can be that third sort of wheel there, I guess. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty good big two. There's no doubt about it. But there's probably a lot of other, equally as good or better big twos if we're talking like duos in the league as well. But I think they've done pretty well to get those sort of guys there. It's one thing I did find. There's going to be a little bit of my hate for Miami coming out now, but I just felt everyone was kind of making a lot of excuses for Jimmy Butler. His field goal percentage was pretty brutal in that final series. He had a couple of really poor games, I thought, where he did basically nothing until the fourth quarter and then started scoring. But I felt a lot of people were saying, "Oh, he's tired, let him off," or something like that. The first thing I thought of, if that was LeBron in that same situation, how many people would have been hating on him if he'd started doing that? It just seems like some people get more of a pass than others, which is strange, I think, the way people sort of see that there. Because, he didn't have he's normally a very good high percentage shooter there, but had some pretty poor shooting games in those final series. And, look, he probably was tired, but so was everyone else out on the court as well. So, obviously had a great year there. But I think sometimes, people get a little bit too much what's the word I'm trying to use without being rude to him there.
be rude, man, be rude. Say it.
I don't know. I think people are just afraid to sort of call people out sometimes. And he's got that kind of cult following, everything else like that. But like I said, if I compared LeBron, if he was in that situation, shooting 42% in games and, going missing for 3/4, I think there'd be a lot more sort of hate there. But Jimmy Butler doesn't seem to get that heat there.
So he deserves more criticism than he's getting right now, is what you're trying to say, right?
I'm not trying to say he deserves a lot of criticism. I'm just saying he seems to get a free pass when he has a good game. And then when he has a bad game, when he has a good game, people go on about it for a week.
So speak on it. He deserves a little bit more criticism than he's getting right now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about Jimmy Butler. He takes 12.6 field goals a game in the regular season this year. Okay? That is not enough for a number one guy, in my opinion, is it?
Nah, he probably needs to get going a bit more now. But look, his passing's obviously been pretty decent this year, and that's something he still did pretty well in the finals there. But yeah, possibly in this score-first league now, they need to get him the ball a bit more and try and get him averaging, high 20s at this stage if he can.
Or bring a number one scorer, a guy who's willing to take 20 field goals a game into this lineup and have Jimmy Butler as number two guy, right? And then
Fred VanVleet will come in and shoot 20 shots a game.
Man, he ain't shy. That brother ain't shy. And let's talk about Bam Adebayo, right? He bit undersized for the center position. As good as he is.
Yeah, I think ultimately you'd love to play him at the 4 if you had another sort of big there. You didn't have to play all the time, but someone you could sort of play and maybe put Bam down to the 4 there. He's improved his shooting a little bit. Still not really an outside threat there, but yeah, he's definitely their future there. They're certainly not going to give up on someone like him. So he's certainly making the most of his abilities. I think he was probably a little bit better than I thought he would be in that final series.
Oh, yeah, that he was really good. You said he wouldn't be.
No, I just said that the Joker had a lot of success against him sort of previously, and I was expecting that to continue. But, the Joker did dominate the matchup, let's face it. But I just think Bam was a little bit better offensively than maybe what I thought. Yeah.
Bam was pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so a lot of people are saying, jumping on the bandwagon, saying Denver Dynasty, these guys are all young, under 30. Can they repeat this, right? And go back to back. I'm not sure they can. They've got two pretty decent guys and a bunch of role players around them, right? Can they do that?
Well, look, going back to back is very hard, isn't it? We've seen a lot of, one-time champs over these last few years, but I definitely think they can. You mentioned obviously the players under contract. Yeah, I think the stars are healthy, still at that good age and everything else like that. We're not sure about some of those teams in the West next year. Is, Ja Morant going to be, in the Wild Wild West shooting guns and stuff and not playing? The Lakers are an aging team. Never sure what the Clippers are going to bring there. So certainly in terms of the West, I think they're looking good again. I do think the East has got some probably more quality teams up at that top sort of echelon there. But no, I see no reason why they can't get back there again next season.
All right, before we move on, I'm going to put you on the spot, right? I want to have your top 5. Top 5 contenders for next year. Let's start at 5, go all the way up to 1, all right? On the spot right now. 5 NBA teams to win the championship in 23-24. 5 to 1.
All right. Number 5, I'm going to say Minnesota.
All right, let me go 5-2. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
Hey, mate, you put me on the spot. That's
that is craziness, all right? Number 5, I got Phoenix Suns, all right?
Cool. Number 4, I'm going to say Cleveland. Love that
Man,
roster. Love that
what
roster.
are you talking about?
Love that roster.
What are you talking about? Number 4, I go Boston Celtics, right?
So number 3, I'll say Boston.
All right. Number 3, I'm gonna go Golden State Warriors.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I reckon
I
that's
still
crazy.
think they got something left in them. They go on one more run in them. They'll get Draymond back, Clay back. They'll retool. One more final run.
Clay Thompson can't even run anymore, but anyway.
All right. Well, I got him at 3. All right. Number 2, man.
Number 2 for me is the Bucks. I think.
Me too, bro. Me too. I got you.
A lot of it depends on this free agency, though. Getting guys like Lopez, Chris Middleton, and guys like that coming back. But I think a healthy Bucks team should really be up there. And I'll say Denver number 1.
Yeah, me too. Denver number 1. Let's just go back to the Bucks real quickly, right? Chris Middleton. I know you love the guy, right? He ain't been the player that he was before the injury.
Agreed.
Can he go back to that?
Teams traditionally do that, don't they? Because he's been such an important player, helped him win a championship. I hope they probably don't overpay to bring him back because he's not getting any younger, not getting any healthier. But I have a feeling they will bring him back. But anyway, what are you hating on my Cleveland and Minnesota picks for? Man, Minnesota might be a reach, but I just think the West is
Minnesota's a reach. And Cleveland, they couldn't even beat New York, man. They couldn't even beat New York.
That roster, I like it. I like that. They've got some good big guys, good defenders. They've got some scorers. You watch. I think I.
So you're putting them ahead of Memphis?
100%. 100%. Yeah? Memphis won't even have their star for half a season. The Lakers players are all aging now. The Clippers players are always injured. Who else is there in the West? I think.
The Pelicans, if Zion can play.
Well, Zion can play. Unfortunately, it's not on the basketball court. It's more in the bedroom than what I'm hearing.
Word up. Okay. All right, man. That's fair. Let's see how that plays out, right? Yeah. And then we've done all our predictions and stuff, right? So at the start of the season, I think we're going to have an episode coming up soon, which you're going to host, where we're going to go through that, right?
Sounds good, yeah.
Okay, terrific. All right, so let's do some quick hits, Robbie, right? I just want to talk about a few different topics, okay? Let's talk about Chris Paul. Let's start off there. Word has it that he is maybe going to be waived, he's going to be traded, but Phoenix are going to part ways with him. I know you're not the biggest Chris Paul fan, but what's the future for CP3?
It's interesting. It was like that big headline last week that they're expected to waive him, and then a day later it was like, oh, hang on, maybe it's not so sure yet. Look, I think he's probably someone they do need to part ways with now, and maybe sort of start off there. I don't know what their replacement might be in Phoenix there, and I don't know what sort of trade currency he's got now, a guy like Chris Paul, but I'd probably look at moving on from him myself. He hasn't sort of shown that he's that player to get him over the edge. Obviously, he got him to the NBA Finals a couple of years ago, but I'd look to get rid of him if you can in a sign and trade while he's got some currency, and try and bring someone in maybe younger, a little bit faster. I think CP3 still gets his steals and everything else like that, but I just don't think he's a defender that he used to be. He's not that physical defender. Like if he stopped someone like Jamal Murray, for example, I don't think so. So I'd probably look at moving on from him. So don't send him to Atlanta though. I don't want him.
Where could he land then?
He's always been in the West, hasn't he? I don't know. Is he still a starter? Probably most people would say he is. Would he be prepared to take like a 6-man role and sort of play a little bit of, point guard by committee there? Could he go to a team like Minnesota, who I mentioned before there, and, play the veteran role there? I'm not sure. I think he's still got a role in the league. I'm just not sure it's the type of role he's had the last few years.
Yeah, well, he said he wants to play 2-3 more years. Someone like Kyle Lowry, who's been a 5-6-time All-Star, is willing to take on a lesser role. Okay, I don't think someone like Chris Paul would take that too easily.
Yeah, you have to wonder, doesn't he? And will he decide to go maybe ring chasing? Will he sort of look down and he might name his top 5 teams for next season, like we just did, and then try and make some calls there? So we'll have to see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Well, look, it's been some great NBA talk today, finals talk. It's been brilliant. I think we're gonna have the draft and a few other things coming up, but let's talk about the NBL a little bit. I want to focus on the New Zealand Breakers, right?
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about their most recent acquisitions, which have been Mango Mathiang and Dane Pinnow, right?
Yeah.
We've heard word that the 3 imports are not coming back, right? And when they've signed these 2 centers, does that mean that Mango Mathiang is going to start, Dane Pinnow is going to be his backup, and someone like Derek Parton is obviously gone? They're going to look at imports at other positions.
But look, I definitely trust the process with them. They did have some, amazing imports. I think we might have named our top 3 imports last year, and they might have been number 1 for both of us, possibly. That was a great import trio, though, last year. Really good. A scoring guard, a great defender inside, and a guy like Brantley who could do everything. So it's a shame, I think, for the league if all 3 of them don't come back, personally. Look, Mango Mathiang was pretty decent with the Wollongong with Illawarra last year. I'm not sure he's a starter and that much of a scorer. I'd like to see him, as a six-man possibly. It looks like he will be starting there. I quite like the Dane Pennell signing, though, Woods. I follow these St Mary's guys around the league or whatever. He seems like a good teammate. He's the sort of guy I wouldn't have minded seeing Perth end up with there. I think he can go there and have some meaningful minutes. And then again, you just got to trust what New Zealand can do and that they'll go out and get some quality imports. Also heard, I think, on Olgan and Jack's latest podcast as well, a guy like Tom Vodanovic might be going to play in the Philippines of all places there, so he could be out of action, and then they might have him back when the Philippines season starts. Apparently, he's got a lucrative offer over there, so it's an interesting one, I thought. But it could be a bit of a different team we see with the Breakers next year.
Look, I'm gonna say that like those three guys, Derek Pardon, Jarrell Brantley, and B Brown, they were a big part of their success last year. I know regaining William McDowell White was great. I see on Twitter people are saying that Mango Mathiang is going to be a different player. He's going to be better than Derek Pardon, right? I mean, I think that's a bit of crazy talk, right?
Yeah, definitely don't agree with that.
Yeah, I honestly think the New Zealand Breakers are in a bit of trouble this year unless they can recruit some 3 good imports. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're not going to be like they were last year, man.
Well, they've got another next star already. I do think they recruited so well last year. So, look, I wouldn't totally rule them out yet. A big thing depends on what sort of imports they can get. They seem to have a pretty good budget there as well these days. So, yeah, I'd sort of reserve judgment on them at the moment, I'd say.
I'm going to say they're not making the playoffs this year, man. I'm going to say it right now, right?
Big call.
And you got Mango Mathiang and Dane Pennell, right? And last year you had Derek Pardon and you had Rob Lowe. Speak about Rob Lowe, just announced his retirement, man, after probably one of his best seasons in the NBL.
Yeah, I definitely think he probably could have played on. You wonder if his body's letting him down a bit now. But no, he was a great servant of the game, wasn't he? He had some great moments for the Tall Blacks. And, of course, for the Breakers there, I love those big guys who can shoot from the outside their Woods. He could hold his head high about a really good career there. And you wonder if he'll still stay involved with the game there and maybe stay, in some sort of capacity with the Breakers anyway.
I'm going to make a hot take here and say that he might reverse his retirement and come back and play later in this season, right?
Interesting, yeah.
All right. Well, we talked about those next stars, right? Let's go through them right now. The NBL is absolutely loaded with talent next year for the 2024 NBA draft eligible prospects, okay?
Yeah.
So let's go through them. AJ Johnson for the Illawarra Hawks. Alexandra Sarr for your Perth Wildcats.
I want to hear you pronounce some of these other guys coming up. I'm looking forward to this.
Taron Armstrong, we all know about him for the Cairns Taipans. Cairns Taipans great at recruiting.
Yeah.
Ariel Luckbordy, obviously coming back after that season-ending injury last year. This is a tough one. The New Zealand Breakers guy. Mantas Rabstavikius.
The Lithuanian, right?
The Lithuanian, yeah?
Yeah.
Bobby Klitman from the Cairns Taipans, who I'm really impressed by, man. I've seen a few videos of him, and David Okwera. He's not an NBA draft prospect. Come on, man.
Yeah,
he's a Perth Wildcat.
He's still very young though. But no, look, I think last year was possibly maybe lacking a little bit in the next star department there with the amount of names. There's some great names you mentioned there. I mean, the Swedish guy for Cairns, I've watched a few
highlight tapes of him out of
Wake Forest. Man. Yeah, I'm sure he must drive a Volvo as well. I would have thought that's probably likely. But yeah, I think he could be a good sort of player, and I think like Aaron Ford said as well, he's really that prototype NBA player with his length, his wingspan. Yeah, so I think he could be pretty handy, and we know those young players have success in Cairns as well.
We'll talk about Cairns. Let's stay there, right? Great next stars. We knew Bull Call was going to re-sign, but it pen to pad hadn't happened till recently. So it's pretty nice for a low market team like Cairns, who often lose players to the bigger market teams, to retain a talent like Bull Call, who's going to come back for his 3rd consecutive season with the club.
That was a strange one, wasn't it? I felt like we talked about that about 5 weeks ago, and it seemed like it was official, but apparently it wasn't. It got made official yesterday. So no, good for the Cairns Taipans for sure.
All right, one thing I want to talk to you about is the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. Okay, Milton Doyle coming back.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it, to see him coming back? You wonder who that 3rd import will be now. I don't think they've made that decision on that yet. Seem to have had a few roster moves there, but I think that's an important player. Was he an All NBL second team from memory?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Am I way off there?
Second?
Oh, I don't know.
No, he was 1st or 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, either way, he was in the top handful of players in the NBL, so that's a huge coup to get him back there. He obviously enjoyed playing there, and I think that's huge for the Taipans to get him back. I'm looking forward to seeing him run around again.
Well, have they locked up 2 imports? They've only got Milton Doyle as far as I'm concerned, right?
Isn't Majet already confirmed as
No,
well?
Majet's not signed. No, he's not.
He's not, is
He's
he?
not.
Okay, interesting. All right. Maybe I just assumed he'd be coming back, but yeah, you're right. Maybe they'll start off Doyle and then see what else they've got, money wise and everything like that. But yeah, interesting.
It's a 2-year deal for Doyle, and he's like, look, even though there's more money in Europe, I love the family environment, the atmosphere in the in Tasmania, and I love the way the NBL is played. So really great kudos for him to come back. Yeah.
No, for sure.
And we speak about Josh Majet, right? I thought that he was the cultural guy off and on the court for that Tasmania Jack Jumpers team. And a guy that recently retired was Agent 97, right?
No, definitely. I mean, he had a great career, didn't he? He made the most out of his talent there. Really athletic player. Probably, I saw some of his highlight packages there. Man, he could get up for a pretty short guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Plenty of energy off the bench. So he's going into like a coaching role with him, I believe, is he? Or?
Jared Weeks, yeah, for sure, he is. I almost would have thought that someone like Josh Majet, who's talked for years about wanting to move into a coaching role, would have probably been a better choice. I'm gonna take this right now. If you're not gonna bring back Josh Majet as a player, I would have actually brought back Josh Majet as a coach, right?
I'm sure he could earn some money playing somewhere else more than he's getting for assistant coaching at an NBL team. To be honest,
at 35, man, if he wants to get into that coaching role in the future, it would have been a good learning experience under Scott Roth for him. So let's see how that plays out. But I think that they're really going to miss Josh Majet because from all reports, they're not bringing him back, right? They might, but from all reports, they're not. And I think that, I know his play was inconsistent. I know Stewie, our friend from the Sport Blokes, is probably going to say, Majet, he needs to go. But I think the kind of leader he's been on and off the floor has been great for that team over the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, no, I certainly enjoy watching him play for sure.
You got a Josh Majet jersey, right?
I do.
Awesome, man. And a buy in the NBL 1 this week?
Yeah, last week it was the buy in the NBL 1 East for the Queens, the Kings long weekend. So looking forward to get back in the commentary booth this week. Our Hills Hornets are taking on Bankstown, which should be pretty good. The season's really getting to the pointy end now. I know when the NBL 1 East is about 8 games remaining. They have extended the top 4 from last year into a top 8 this year, so that's going to be pretty exciting. And yeah, the Hills are hanging on to that 8th spot at the moment, so a win this week against Bankstown would be huge to get them up there. And yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully you can come and watch another game again soon.
I will for sure, man. I hope we're going out to Hornsby, right? You and me?
Yeah, sounds good.
How's your WNBA fantasy going?
I'm still undefeated. I'm 4 from 4 now, leading the league. So I drafted pretty well, getting Aja Wilson at the first pick, and I've had some pretty sneaky players that I picked up in that league there. Actually, I'll bore you with that while I'm checking it out, Woods. But I've enjoyed it. I've sort of paid a bit of an extra eye on the WNBL after playing the fantasy. You know what it's like. You sort of have a bit more interest in a sport when you're following sort of players in that regard. But yeah, it's showing. It says I can't be stopped now, and the streamers are falling down. So drafted pretty well. So looking forward for that to continue. The big one for me was Alana Smith there, Wood. So she was like a free agent sitting there, no one drafted. I picked her up and she's been dominating. So, yeah, quite pleased to get an Aussie in there and, yeah, enjoying the WNBA fantasy.
And while we're on the women's game, let's spare a thought for Tiana Mangakahia, right?
Yeah.
Going through a really tough time. Had to call quits on her career because she's been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It's really sad, and for someone like me who has a father going through the same thing, I can really understand and relate to that. And
absolutely,
man, our thoughts are with her.
Absolutely, best wishes to her.
Best wishes to her. All right, let's finish off the show, man. I'm nearly out of packs, but I've got the Skybox inaugural edition.
Nice, let's do it. We didn't do it last week. I think we did the week before, but yeah, looking forward to get into this again. I always like those Skybox cards as well. You'll have to jump online and order some more, mate. You got to get some.
I'm out of packs, guys. I'm out of packs. All right. Okay, we used to put this in a printer back in the day when the ink ran out. I'm talking about Orlando Magic forward, 6'8".
I'm hearing your clue, but it's not.
What did we put in a printer back in the day?
Ink? Paper?
Terry Catledge.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Nice. Pretty sure we've had his card in the Skybox set as well. Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome, and Stewie's going to love this, right? And he's actually showed off this card. Stewie, this is a shout out to you, man. Melbourne Tigers legend and former Philadelphia 76er.
Leonard Copeland. Very nice. Scott Brooks in the background there. Very cool.
This guy's namesake was a great singer. He was one of the greatest singers of all time. Harold. Sacramento Kings forward, 6'8".
Sacramento 6. Oh, Wayman Tisdale.
He died too early.
Wayman Tisdale.
Harold Presley.
Wow. I don't remember anything about him.
Have you heard of him?
I've heard of him. I couldn't tell you one thing about him. Yeah.
Okay. Center from the Cleveland Cavaliers in 1990, number 44. Barely played.
44.
Paul McKeskey.
I was just about to say, you got to give me longer than that. I was just about to say Paul McKeskey. Yeah. Nice. He had some good hair.
Were you?
Back in the day. Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
My bad, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, the round mound of rebound.
Nice. Good old Barkley straight out of Auburn. Nice. Nice.
What a legend. Charlotte Hornets, sharpshooter and high flyer, 6'4".
Rex Chapman.
Yeah.
Nice. We pulled a few of his cards over the
I
various
remember
sets.
this guy. We have Atlanta Hawks legend, had a short-lived NBA career. Guard, 6'5". He's not short, but he is.
Grant Long.
John Long.
John Long. Yeah. Nice. Gee, that's going back a bit.
Denver Nuggets guard, 6'6". Bits and pieces player. Didn't play much.
Got to say, this has been a rough pack so far. Woods apart from
Yep.
Barkley. Jeez, 6'6". What number was he?
It doesn't say. Jerome.
Lane.
Jerome Lane.
Jeez, this is an ordinary pack so far. Let's see if we can get a
Ordinary
better
pack.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trey Young's favorite ever Atlanta Hawks coach.
Nate McMillan, number 10 for the Sonics.
Nate McMillan, number
Throwing
10.
it down too. Wow.
Yeah. I'm not an Eagle. I'm a Golden State Warriors guard. My name is
Terry Teagle.
Terry Teagle.
Nice. Those long socks he used to wear. Nice.
North Carolina's man. Center. In the middle for North Carolina.
Big Smooth. Sam Perkins.
Sam Perkins.
Nice.
See, this guy bullied Scottie Pippen his rookie year so much. And then when he got traded, Jordan wasn't happy, but it made the
Charles
team better.
Oakley.
Yep.
Nice. He's still a fun follow on Twitter these days as well. He always says what he's thinking.
Is he allowed in MSG yet?
Probably not.
I don't even know who this guy is. He is a 6'3" guard, white guy from the Miami Heat, number 3
John
in
Sunvold.
89-90.
John Sunvold.
His name is similar to the head of the Playboy Play Mansion. Not Hefner. Scott Hafner.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I do remember him. Jeez, that's going back a way, isn't it?
White guy from the Boston Celtics, number 11, 6'10" forward center. Barely played.
Stojko Vrankovic.
Probably got the most plain white boy name ever.
Not Greg Kite.
Michael Smith.
Oh, wow. One of their commentators, I think, now, is he?
Is he?
Possibly.
Ex-Atlanta Hawk. Average coach. This is his Minnesota Timberwolves jersey. Played for the Utah Jazz.
Ty Corbin.
Ty Corbin.
Nice.
That's a very average pack.
That was an average pack, wasn't it? Jeez, I'm glad I pulled out a few of those at the end. But yeah, there was some no names in that pack, wasn't there? Oh my goodness.
All right, well, great show, man.
Good stuff.
All right, man. Let's finish things up then, brother.
Nice one. Yeah, let people know where they can find us there. So, of course, on Twitter, we're at Throwbacks Hoops. On Instagram, throwback.hoops. And our email address is throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Woods, why don't you do your shout-outs?
Yeah, Patreon. Thanks for everyone's support. We really appreciate it. That's about it, man. Any final thoughts?
Nah, I mean, obviously, big congratulations to the Denver Nuggets now. Looking forward to this draft. I believe it's next Friday, so a week away from that. So we're just trying to iron out our schedule, I guess, for the next few weeks. We're certainly going to be on for a couple more weeks. We'll do probably a recap of our predictions, a bit of a draft preview and some free agency stuff in the next couple of weeks. Then we might look at having a little bit of a break, and then we've got some special guests lined up too. So looking forward to do that.
Thanks, Robbie. And from everyone in the Throwback Hoops team, we really appreciate your support, and we can't wait to do it all again next week, right?
Peace out.
Peace out.